Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is I saw the movie Disclosure Day, and we're going to be talking about it today. And I'm going to start with this, which is actually a good comment. So Leslie fell asleep and slept through about the first 1/3 of the movie. Now, you may be saying, why? Why would you buy a ticket and then sleep through a third of the movie? And the answer is because I think Leslie and I already understand this, but the problem is most Christians out there do not understand this, and it's going to be a part of the great falling away. A lot of Christians will lose their salvation, not to mention the ones that aren't Christians. They're already lost, okay? But the ones that are found, the ones that are Christians, this movie can cause many of them to fall away, which is why we're bringing this to you today. So here's the first thing I want to talk about. I thought that as a movie, okay, just as a movie goes, just pure entertainment, I thought it was written well. I thought the acting was real good, typical Steven Spielberg, good movie, okay? Just as for entertainment. It had no breasts, no butts, and no F-bombs. In other words, no filth in it like that. I believe that just about everything coming out of Hollywood is designed to cause Christians to fall away. Okay, so what was it in this movie that fulfills that? What was it in this movie that would cause Christians to fall away? Here's the bad part. It's trying to get people to answer the one big question. That question is, and I even give it in the movie a couple of times, so what if you were shown proof that humankind is not alone in the universe? In the universe, would you believe it? Let me say it again. If you were shown proof that mankind is not alone in the universe, in other words, there are aliens out there, would that bother you? Well, if you have read your Bible, no. It doesn't surprise you a bit, but this program is hopefully going to move you further away from being deceived, closer to the truth. Okay, the movie. I'm talking about just the movie. This is my analysis of it. I thought Emily Blunt, the primary character of the movie, did a wonderful job in acting. I thought it was a good movie. Talking about just pure entertainment. It was a good movie. Didn't have a bunch of filth in it and stuff. So during the movie, now let's talk about the movie. A red cardinal flies through an open window into the room. And as a result of that red cardinal, and you can take that as possibly being a demon or possibly being some kind of an alien. But anyway, after that, she starts speaking in Russian, and then within 10 minutes later, she's speaking in Chinese, only to discover that she is one of two people that were chosen. The devil is in the details. So what were they chosen? Well, it is not until the end of the movie that we discover the chosen meant to the two people were abducted into a spaceship and given special powers. In other words, it's a special blessing if you get abducted and go into a spaceship. That's the not forward objective. In other words, that's their hidden message. Okay, so at the conclusion of the movie, one of the heroes uploads 160 high-resolution original footage of all the secrets the governments of the world, have been withholding and hiding from the public. It starts out supposedly with the original footage of the alien bodies being moved and bagged from the 1947 Roswell, New Mexico alien spacecraft crash site. Now, I don't know if that's original footage. Probably it is. It looks good enough to me, but these days, who knows with AI. But the point is, it's bringing us the truth that they've been saying is a lie and covering up since 1947, and truth be known, before that. Then they showed another clip of a real live alien. It wasn't talking, it was just moving. Now, again, whether it's real, whether it's AI, I don't know. That's not the point. The point is they're trying to bring you to a decision. Then they showed another clip of about 5 aliens walking of their own power. They didn't have handcuffs. They weren't restrained in any way. They were walking with about 5 other humans, meaning they showed, if you looked at it, they had all 160 clips playing across the nation all at once. And you could basically pick and choose which one you wanted to look at. In other words, a bunch of these little squares. You could pick and choose which one you want. But the message is they're trying to say, we've got a lot of this. They're trying to say there's something else out there alive other than just humans. The clips play across all of America on all the TV channels all at once, so no one can see all of them at once. The point of the movie is to prepare the world for the landing, popping open of the hatch of the door, and aliens coming out, presenting themselves to the world, saying, okay, here we are. Okay, so when they say we're here, what do? What's that all about? Why? I'm not going into all the details today. I've covered it many times. But if you want to know, go back to Genesis 6. It basically says the sons of God came down and made of the daughters of men. They saw the daughters of men were beautiful. I agree. I think we have beautiful ladies out there. And they mated with them. And their offspring in those days were giants, men of old, men of renown. That word in the Hebrew for old means they did not die. They did not inherit the death gene of Adam and Eve. So consequently, they were living forever. So that was the first time that the angels left their first estate, according to Job. Then, 2 men to carry out 1 cluster of grapes. As you recall, after the children of Israel walked through the Red Sea, went through Mount Sinai, God spoke audibly to them, and then they were allowed to go into the Promised Land. They sent in 12 spies, and Caleb was the only one. I think there was one other one. Anyway, Caleb came back and reported, here's what he reported. I think I got the scripture. And Caleb said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we were well able to overcome it. Okay, so why did God get mad at the people that didn't believe? He just delivered them out of the hands of Pharaoh, at that time the strongest nation on earth, with the strongest military on earth, with many high-tech advanced devices and weapons we don't have today. I mean, we can't build the pyramid today. We can't lift those big heavy stones in place. We can't cut them as accurately and specifically as they did then. Why'd he get mad at them? They just saw him split the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea was frozen walls of ice on both sides. They walked through on dry ground. That wasn't enough. They got on the other side. He spoke to them audibly. Mount Sinai, he gave them the 10 Commandments. They married him. They made a covenant with him. And after all of this, what'd they do? They didn't believe him. They did not believe that God could deliver them. They didn't believe he could feed them. They didn't believe that he could water them. And you know what? We Christians today, do we believe that God is capable of taking care of us? Do we believe that God is able to feed and water us as we go through the mark of the beast, the 7-year tribulation? What about you, Stan? Do you believe that God can keep Prophecy Club going even during the summer, even when it's really, really tight? Yep, he has to. And he will continue. By the way, thank you to the people that do support us. It wasn't my idea. It's God's idea to start Prophecy Club. Maybe I'll tell you that story sometime. So anyway, then Goliath. Okay, so Goliath comes along. I believe he was a hybrid. He was a giant. He was part man, part something else. David killed him with a sling stone. I have an idea an angel made that sling stone, which, by the way, I've got a sling stone that I found. Many of us, we found. Apparently, we came when we were walking in, Saudi Arabia, near, let me get the right place. Moses struck the rock twice. The first time he struck the rock when he was supposed to speak to it, first time he was supposed to strike it, he did. Second time when he was supposed to speak to it, that's where it was. And apparently when we were there in 1991, Leslie and I and 28 other people, as we were walking through there, all of a sudden we came upon this area when there was a whole bunch of these round stones, a little bit bigger than a hardball, not as big as a softball. But it was made of like this really hard rock, and they were almost perfectly round. Not perfectly round, not machined, but pretty close to perfectly round. And Ron said those are sling stones. Probably what happened here was some kind of a war. Remember, the Old Testament says that there was some left-handed Jews that were really accurate, and they could sling this stone very, very well. Okay, so that's what David did. I think the angel got a hold of the stone and slung it really, really fast. Now, let me say something about that. As I mentioned several times, I play racquetball. And twice I've been at the front of the room, and sometimes this happens. Okay, you find yourself at a position, not supposed to be at the front of the room, but I was at the front of the room trying to get a ball up there, and I turned around, and someone had hit the ball. And racquetball move, it's the fastest sport. It moves at 160 miles an hour. So it moves faster than a human can throw it. I looked up and this racquetball was coming like this, and it was really strange because it's like for a millisecond, it mesmerizes you. All of a sudden, this little dot, boom, boom. I mean, it hit me right there. So the point is, God can take care of them. And they didn't believe God could take care of them. And some of us, heading into the tribulation, don't believe that God can take care of us today either, but He can and He will. Okay, so why? Why this movie? Why is this disclosure thing coming? I think it is the greatest danger to Christians that they face during this time is not, can we tell the truth from deception? That's a little easier than the second one. Can we tell the truth from near truth? See, if someone puts a whole big teaspoon of arsenic in your coffee and stirs it up, you're going to see something's in that coffee. Same thing with a glass of water. You can see something. And if you touch your lips to it, you're going to say, I don't know what that is, but that's not coffee. I don't know, what would you put in this? That's not the danger. The danger is not when there's a whole tablespoon of arsenic put in your coffee. The danger is when they do this. Just a little bit. You can't taste it, but it's enough to kill you. See, that's what the devil knows. He knows that he can't give you a whole lot of arsenic. In other words, he can't give you 100% lie because you'll spot that. So he just puts in a little sprinkle, just enough. Hath God said, okay? Well, God had told them that they should not eat of the fruit, at least of this one tree. Okay, so my point is just a little bit of change. That's the problem. So the Antichrist shall deceive. Let me show you a couple of scriptures to back that up. He shall work deceitfully. This talk about the Antichrist. Here's another one. Let no man deceive you, Jesus speaking. For many shall come in my name, saying, I'm the Christ. I think that's what the Antichrist is going to do. See, Antichrist doesn't mean against Christ. He knows he'll lose if he goes against Christ. He's just trying to be Christ. Okay, that's the reason he sits on the Ark of the Covenant, proclaims himself God, stops animal sacrifice, and the image of the beast requires everybody to worship the beast or be killed. So, no man deceive you yet, even though we get the warning, it'll deceive many. Then, Matthew 24:24, there shall rise false Christs, some false prophets. Well, we've seen that. And shall show great signs and wonders. Now, there's the problem. See, because we Christians, we read that one of the ways that Jesus was able to convince people that he was the Christ was with great miracles, signs and wonders. The lady was bent over, that stood up straight. The people that were blind, the people that lepers that couldn't walk. I mean, many, many examples. That convinced the people of the day that Jesus was truly the Son of God, at least the ones that did get convinced. But this guy uses signs and wonders, the very thing that Jesus used to show people that he was the Christ. He uses those same things. Now, wait a minute. Can the devil do signs and wonders? Well, look, if the devil is making someone sick, and he can he also then heal them? Of course. He just removes the sickness, okay? So he can undo the damage that he has done. So he can cause great signs and wonders. Not to mention, he's going to have Elon Musk's low Earth orbiting satellites that don't use radar to communicate. They use lasers. They will be able to create the face of God and the voice of God coming out of the heaven and saying, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased, talking about the Antichrist. So he showed great signs and wonders, if it were possible to deceive the very elect. Now, there's the problem. See, the ones that are not Christians, devil's already got them. He's not after them. They're already in his quiver, so to speak. Who's he after? He's after me and you. We are the target. When he says, if it were possible that they would deceive the very elect. So the deceptions that are coming are designed so that Christians will swallow the arsenic and be killed. They're designed so that Christians will see it and say, well, that's got to be the truth. As I said earlier, in the future, our problem is not going to be, can we discern the truth from error? It's going to be, can we discern the truth from the near truth? Think about that. All right, let's go on. Deception. 2 Thessalonians 2:2. Don't be shaken of any mind or troubled, whether in spirit or by word, by letter from us, as the day of Christ is at hand. In other words, do not be deceived that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come until there come a falling away first. My question is, what is the falling away? What causes the falling away? Well, yeah, it could be the trouble. It could be the dollar falling. It could be a big earthquake hitting. It could be suitcase nicks going off. But it most likely has to do with this alien deception coming. Let's go on and read it. He opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, so that he is worshipped, so that he as God, that's the Antichrist. He doesn't want to come against Christ. He wants to be Christ. He doesn't have to convince you that Christ is a bad guy. He just has to convince you that he's the good guy, okay? He, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's what he wants. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. How does he get all power? This is the guy that made the pyramids. This is the guy that has probably anti-gravity flying devices with powerful lasers, can go through dimensions. Lucifer's a powerful guy. He's got a lot of high technology. High power, signs, and lying wonders. With all deceivableness of unrighteousness. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What's deceivableness of unrighteousness? The problem is the devil does have a pretty good game. The devil can say, ho, look at that gal. And a lot of guys look at that gal. Ho, try this out. You like cigarettes, try this out. And all of a sudden you're doing mainline heroin just a few months later. Deceivableness of unrighteousness means we think that the devil's plan, we think that what tastes good or looks good is good when it's really not. Okay? In them that perish because they receive not the love of the truth. What do you mean, receive not the love of the truth? Okay, so when I was in Honduras, I was on a radio and TV program. And I made this comment. I said, for some 2,000 years, the Father has offered the blood of his Son as a free sacrifice. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't hurt. He's offered that sacrifice from some 2,000 years. And many people have accepted it, but many people have not. So what the devil is about to do, God is going to say, okay, for some 2,000 years you have resisted and refused, turned your nose up at the blood of my Son. You don't want my Son. You don't want my way to salvation, my free, easy way to salvation. So you want to do it the devil's way? Fine, I'll give you the devil's way. And so he's going to send a strong delusion so that all those that refuse Jesus, all those that refused his way to be saved will believe the lie. Lucifer, Satan, will believe the lie, the aliens, and be damned. For this cause, God shall send them a strong... Let me back up. In them, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. So you don't want my blood, Son? Or, excuse me, you don't want my Son's blood? You don't want my free sacrifice? You don't want my gift? Fine. I'll give you the gift that you want. And when you believe it, you'll be damned. For this cause, because they didn't receive Jesus, for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, so that all those that didn't come to the knowledge of the truth would believe the lie and be damned. That's what it's saying. But it had pleasure in unrighteousness. I remember my mom said, well, son, There are pleasures in sin. Think about it. That joint, that cigarette, that alcohol, that gal, whatever it might be. There's pleasures in the devil's offerings. They look real good, but the end thereof is destruction. Let me go on. Alien destruction, or excuse me, alien disclosure. Destruction is true too. Alien disclosure. It is a God sent deception. God sent it. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He is cast out into the earth. When does that happen? Well, in my book, Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, and I think also in my book, Pentecost Rapture the Bride, I explain it. That event happens in the middle of the tribulation. When the Antichrist is wounded to death, but he does not die, I believe that's when that the devil literally comes into the body of the Antichrist. Till then, he's not in the body. And in the middle of the tribulation, that means there's another 1,260 days till Jesus arrives. That's for Armageddon, that is. He will cast out into the earth, and his angels are cast out with him. That's the great deception. That's when he now sees that he is cast down to the earth, and he is wroth. And he went to make war with the remnant of the seed, which keep the commands of God, have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Revelation. Continuing on great miracles. Revelation 13:13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. How does he make fire come down? Well, let's see. There's going to be some 42,000 low Earth orbiting satellites that use lasers, every one of them. Not to mention, they've got anti-gravity flying saucers up there. So could they make some kind of a fire come down out of the sky anytime they want to? Absolutely. Absolutely. Would that deceive a lot of people? Well, it's not going to deceive us. We're expecting it. By the way, if you get my book, Miss the Mark, we talk about this a lot. It is primarily a book to help people see the mark of the beast and not to fall away. And deceiving them that dwell in the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do on the side of the beast. So when the false prophet is there in the presence of the Antichrist, he, the false prophet, is able to call these signs, this fire, this probably a laser beam, any place he wants to, when he is with the Antichrist, meaning the Antichrist is the one that's actually controlling the trigger, the button, the go button, okay? Jump to Revelation 18. And the light of the candle shall shine no more. It's talking about the fall of America. And the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. Now, here's what I want you to see. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. So what is it the great men of America do to cause the world to fall away from Christ? Well, it says they use sorceries. Okay. What are sorceries? Well, astrology is using the movement of the sun, moon, and the stars to deceive people. Sorceries is using things like marijuana, arsenic, all kinds of things sourced from the earth to deceive or to kill men. So what is this by thy sorceries were all nations deceived? Yeah, it's marijuana and the other deceptive things, but I think it's movies. See, a movie is not really, when you see a horse running, it's not really a horse running. And when we went to see this Great Deception, day 4 yesterday, I was shocked to see the kind of movies they have coming to the DFW area. Evil. I mean, they have big, giant, I want to say lizards, dragons. There you go. They have amazing things. They have, I mean, like even Superman. Okay, Superman is really a bad guy. Okay, he's half man, half alien, right? Okay. And what about the Hulk? The Hulk becomes this green monster when he is trying to make himself into a superhuman, and something goes wrong, and so he turns into this big green monster. Again, what is that? That's changing the DNA. Okay, so what is this? Great men of the earth use sorceries, all nations deceive. I think that is primarily the movies, because in the movies, they can make anything seem real they want to. And a lot of people believe it. Okay, we're about done. Here's the Antichrist's mouth. You have to understand this guy. See, Hitler had a wonderful mouth. That is, if you liked him. But the Antichrist is going to have a powerful mouth, even more powerful than the Antichrist. So it says, in this horn were the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Another place, a mouth speaking great things. Another place, a mouth speaking great things. A mouth in blaspheming against God, blaspheming his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. So the Antichrist, he's going to be the best-looking guy ever born, the most intelligent. He's going to have the most wisdom. He's going to solve everything. He is going to be a man's man, a woman's man. If you don't recognize, if you don't know the scriptures, you don't know Jesus in advance, most people are going to just love this guy. But he makes war with the saints and overcomes them. That's Dmitri Duduman's warning. Okay, so in conclusion, there's only three groups. I'll make this real quick. One, they're either reptile-based. Now, the serpent were more subtle than any beast of the field. So group one, and then there's others that are the Nordics or the human appearance, something like this. That's probably what the fallen ones actually look like because they came down made with the daughters of men. So they got to have the right, how do we say this, genetic, how do I say it? How do I say it without being offensive? They have to have the right tools. You know what I mean? Okay, so they had to have the right, so they're probably looking at something like this. Now, ask yourself this. Would many men be willing to, or many women be willing to, with something like this or something like that? Oh, yeah. Yep. And what do they get out of that? Then they get, number two, the giants. These were the Nephilim, or the half man, half fallen. So that's probably what we're looking at, and we're probably looking at this starting, they say, according to what I just looked here, that they're supposed to have this full disclosure this summer, definitely by the end of the year, but there could be a delay. So I'm just saying, don't believe it. Don't deny Jesus. Whatever happens, don't deny Jesus. If you don't want to lose your life's savings, if you have an IRA or a 401k, the thing to do is call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. These folks are Christians, and they specialize in helping people not lose their life savings in the event of a stock market crash and things like that. Look, most of the 401ks, most of the IRAs are in paper, backed by paper, and as Lindsey Williams says, if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Hey, give them a call. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost you anything. See if they can give you some good advice. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these from EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps Prophecy Club.